So, you want to know how to make colour pencil drawings like this? Let me show you how. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. In today's video I want to run you through how I blend colour pencils, my colour choices, and how I achieve my current style. To begin with, I'm using both white and toned paper to show you how the colour pencils react differently on each. I'm also drawing a skull that I have in front of me as it will provide some really nice hard shadows and highlights. For the colour pencils, I'll be using the Faber-Castell Polychromos. Here are the current colours I'll be using for today's artwork. I like to have a mix of warm and cool colours, but on this occasion it will mostly be warm, as we'll be using the cooler blue for shadows. I'll show you later what it's like if you add slightly darker colours if you're looking to achieve something with a higher contrast. But before we get into the bulk of the video, you can skip this bit if you'd like. I just want to share some of my old artwork so you can get a sense of how I ended up creating the style that I do. I mean, this is the first piece that I made with the colour pencils, and you can see just how I'm not blending properly. I'm just kind of experimenting, figuring out how I want to use them. And you'll notice I'm using red and blue quite a lot, as at the beginning I was scared to use any other colour and I didn't really understand the colour theory to an extent. But limiting myself to the two colours for a while helped me understand how to blend. This snake piece here is when it really started to click for me with the blending, so I guess it was time to start introducing more colours. I wanted to stay away from realism with colour pencils, as it's just not my thing, and I'm more inclined to see how I can blend all these colours together in harmony. And I wasn't necessarily thinking everything has to be right, I just wanted to experiment and just see where these colour pencils can take me. Hopefully this will encourage anyone watching this video that we all start from somewhere, and I'm no professional and just simply want to share my experience and things I've learned along the way. So don't get disheartened if you're now just starting to use colour pencils. You got this, stay curious and creative, I promise it'll work out. Okay, let's begin. Grab a snack, sit down at your desk, get comfortable, grab your colour pencils, follow along if you'd like to. We're going to start off with a white colour pencil to kind of etch out the brightest highlights on this skull. The main reason I have two types of paper here is on the white paper you're not going to see this white highlight at all, and on the brown paper it's already a mid-tone, so this white highlight is going to pop off. Let's just slowly bring in some of these bright highlights on the skull. I often find it's easier to work from light to dark, and you'll slowly see the volume and shape grow the more darker colours you add. Depending on what kind of look you're going for, toned paper offers a slightly more grainy look and the white paper will be a lot smoother. That's not to say that the blending will be harder on toned paper, they both blend very well. Also, another thing to note is to try and focus on pencil pressure. The more pressure you are adding, the more dark or full that area you just coloured in will be. So when you need to achieve a gradual transition from a highlight and to a shadow, take the pressure into account so you don't accidentally create a harsh layer that different colours cannot be applied to. Recently I've been using this light yellow and I've started to apply it on the highlight edges. This for me makes a nicer transition from the highlights to shadows, and you'll see once it's finished that there's this iridescent aesthetic that it gives off. You can also blend it into the white parts so it creates a gradient effect. So yeah, just try and get most of these bright highlights onto the page first alongside the yellow, and think of the drawing as if you are sculpting these large bright shapes together. Try not to stress too much about messing up this part, as you can easily rub out the pencil and just go over with darker colours if need be. Also, side note from Editor Lewis, I will add every art supply that is featured in this video in the description if you are keen to check it out. Okay, now we begin the white paper side. I have a really light pink I like to use, primarily building in just the shadows. We're going to use the paper brightness as the highlights and just sculpt the shapes around them. The aim is to use quite a small amount of pencil pressure so that we can layer some darker colours on top without muddying or tearing the paper. Don't worry about colouring specific shadows, we just want every range of shadow to be almost entirely filled with this pencil. However, if there are really dark shadows like the ones highlighted here, you can press a little harder to fill more of the colour in making it darker. This will only help us map those specific shadows out, and when it comes to layering, they'll almost be done. One thing I'd love to add is really harsh shadow lines to create a more dramatic effect. A sculpt is a great reference for this, as it provides both hard and soft edges, and if any of you are following along regardless of what you're drawing, comment down below or send it me through Instagram, as I'd love to have a look. If you need a skull reference, be sure to use the one in this video. I'll also link in the description on where I got my 3D life one. Now we have the bulk of the shadows in the drawing, we're going to use a slightly darker pink/brown to work in those darker places of the skull. This colour is extremely close to the saturation of the previous pink, so we don't have to worry about the sudden colour change ruining the overall colour harmony. I did forget to mention that the lightest pink is almost pointless to use on the toned paper, so that's why you haven't seen me add it on. It's essentially the same tone as the paper itself and almost invisible. At this point of the drawing, we're becoming a bit more aware of the structure of the skull and all the edges, highlights and shadows working together, and the volume is coming through. Okay, so taking what we've just done, I'm going to run a small time lapse just to speed this process up a little bit. We're on the same stage as we were before. I just need to fill out the toned paper side, and you won't miss anything important, so I'll see you in a minute. It is time now to introduce a cooler colour. I love this light blue, as when it's blending on top of the pink it adds just the right amount of tone to the drawing. Now we can really focus on the darkest shadows. Just simply blend over the top and make sure you're focusing on pencil pressure again, because we still have one colour to add at the end. You don't have to use all the colours I'm using today, these are just the ones I think work well for me and are pastel-like, which lends itself to a nice ethereal look, which is what I'm striving to perfect at the moment. Anyway, let's get this light blue down for most of the shadows and we'll move on to the next colour soon. During this time lapse, you'll see that I just often rotate the colour of the pencils I'm using, going from section to section. I think it's easier to go back on parts that I might have missed with more detail when I couldn't see the fuller picture to begin with. We are at the final part of this process, using my favourite pink colour, the salmon. To avoid making the overall drawing looking too cold, this last piece of the puzzle helps keep the tones warm and we'll finally be able to sketch in our darkest darks. You'll notice I'm doing single strokes with the pencil now as to not mess up the hard work I've done already. I'm being cautious about every bit of pressure I now place onto the paper so the jump from the blue to the pink isn't too big that it offsets the entire piece. And again guys, we're just working in these last darker shadows. Keep it simple, notice the shapes and let the colours sing together. Since we're nearing the end of the video, I just want to mention, if you would be so gracious and subscribe, like and comment. If you enjoy my content, please let me know so I'm not too delusional in thinking that this is what everyone wants to see. If there are any other types of videos that you'd like to see from me, just simply going through how I'm creating art, then be sure to let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Like I said before, if you do follow this along with your own drawing, please show it to me. And there we have it. This is how I create my style with colour pencils. For those wondering, this is what the process looks like if you're using slightly darker colours, especially in the cooler department. It gives off a higher contrast, and you can also throw in some reds and greens if you're feeling brave enough. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.